Hi, I'm Duncan, and I'd like to welcome you to my latest YouTube channel presentation. Today, I'll be talking about the Universal Pictures franchise, The Wolfman, which has just been given a new lease of life in the cinema. Um, Basically, Universal Pictures had a real reputation for making very good horror films. They'd started in the 1920s with The Hunchback of Notre Dame and The Phantom of the Opera, which both of them starring Lon Chaney Sr. And during the 30s, they'd scored very heavily with The Invisible Man, Frankenstein, and Dracula, and The Mummy, all which had become uh, franchises, i.e., sequels, and several of four or five in some cases. Now, there was a new um, franchise that Universal was just delivering. They'd made a film in 1934 or 1935 called The Werewolf of London, with Henry Hull, which was a very good film in its own right, but it wasn't really a franchise movie. It was just a movie in its own right. So in 1941, they decided to try and start a werewolf franchise. And a young actor by the name of Crichton Chaney, who was the son of Lon Chaney, he decided in 1932, after his father had died, his father was very reluctant to see him being an actor. So he started off acting in film serials, bit parts in bigger movies, and because he was a big man, he could also be a stunt man as well. Um, Now, he had success at the end of the 30s after struggling for 7 or 8 years with a stage version of Mice and Men, where he played Lenny. And he repeated the role in the film. And then he made a couple of movies, uh, fairly low budget fantasy pictures, one of them being for Universal called Man Made Monster. And this movie did much better than Universal expected. So they gave up the idea since they'd employed and had Lon Chaney Sr. as one of their stars, although he did most of his work at MGM. It would be a nice thing to have his son uh, on the books. So they offered him a contract for 5 years. Um, and he was given the part of Larry Talbot, the Wolfman, in the film of the same name, a film that Alfred Hitchcock would greatly admire. Not wanting to give you out a load of spoilers, the film starts with Larry Talbot coming back from America. He's the second son in the Talbot family, and really has had to go and make his own way in the world. And he's come back from the States to comfort his father because his older brother, who was in charge of all the estates and everything, has died. And there is a very nice relationship between Lon Chaney and his father, Sir John Talbot, who's played by Claude Rains, and they do very well together. There's a bond with them right from the start. When uh, Sir John is talking about the sadness of losing his son, uh, uh, Larry replies, "Well, I'm here now, Dad." So clearly, there's a bond developing between them very, very early on. There's some very fine other performances in the movie. We've got Dr. Lloyd, played by Warren Williams, uh, Colonel Paul Montford, played by Ralph Bellamy, Patrick Knowles, who plays Frank Andrews. Um, he's basically the love interest for Evelyn Ankers, who is a girl that Larry sort of starts to get very attached to. We've got Bela Lugosi as the Gypsy Bella, and Maliva, who is a gypsy woman, is played by Maria Osfen. Hi, I'm sorry if I've pronounced her name wrong. Um, the script was written by by Kurt Seidmark, who wrote a lot of good horror scripts for Universal. Produced and directed by George Wagner, and the Wolfman's makeup is is done by Jack Pierce, who is just a legendary Universal horror icon. Here I've got had him for a number of years. My Aurora glowing in the dark Wolfman model. I think I built him about 1976, so he's nearly 50 years old. These were a massive craze in the States, these horror kits, but they also got to places like funny little places like Britain as well. And exactly, this is pretty much how he looked in the movie. He didn't glow in the film, but there was I think it was yak hair that Jack Pierce used. But nevertheless, uh, a very fine monster that soon became very much one of the gang. You'd have three sequels, all played by Lon Chaney. Um, the what basically happens is that the film deals with a lot of issues. Does Larry Talbot, can he rise to his fulfill his father's expectations? Can he be a decent replacement for his brother? You know, the idea of he wasn't a prodigal son, but he was a son that didn't feel comfortable being second fiddle to his older brother. Now, there's got a strange parallel there, but I won't say anything further. And what he does is he takes he goes to a sort of a fun fair run by the gypsies, and in a load of things he tries to save a girl from being attacked by a werewolf and gets bitten himself. Bela Lugosi, who was offered the part of the Wolfman originally, is in the film. He plays a gypsy called Bella, who and what happens is that people start to die as the weeks go by, and Lon, Chaney's, had to sit in the makeup chair for a very long time, having the hair added to him, and then using stock frame photography. The first time he appears as the werewolf, they're very interested in his legs. You see all the hair starting to spout on his legs, but before anything else. The movie was a terrific success, and helped to help to make Lon. He was now just called Lon Chaney. He wasn't called Lon Chaney Jr. Now helped to solidify his reputation as a horror movie star. He'd then make Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, A House of Frankenstein, and House of Dracula, and then Abbott and Costello meet the Wolfman. But I have never been a great fan of that movie. And there was in 2010 a fabulous remake, which starred Benicio del Toro, again as Larry Talbot, and playing Sir John Talbot was Anthony Hopkins. The movie is a lot more graphic. The original movie was very suggests a lot of things. You pick up various the things that what characters mean. What are they? They're not saying everything. But But this film is a lot more subtle. It's got a totally different relationship between a father and son, and lots of graphic horror. But in its own way, it's a very good film, a very moving scene when a werewolf attacks the gypsy camp. Larry Talbot, his first, helps to save the life of a little girl who's lost her mum in all the panic, and his performance was very very good. And Anthony Hopkins is his performance is very evil, and I think it pleased the horror movie fans. Um, and so now we move to the latest film, just called Wolfman rather than The Wolfman. It's a very enjoyable film, but a totally different story. If you're expecting gothic horror, then you will be disappointed. But it's just a well written film with lots and lots of shocks and twists. And it basically stars three people: Christopher Jacob Abbott as the father, and Julia Garner as his wife, and Matilda Firth as their little daughter, and she's absolutely terrific. She with all three of them are absolutely brilliant, and they work together very very well through the difficulties and dangers, and it's well worth seeing. I don't think it's in Britain. It hasn't taken the world by storm, but it's still showing in the cinemas. I'm glad to have caught it. As I say, it's an update, real update, set in the present day, the same way that a few years ago, The Invisible Man was. It's a good film. If you like horror movies, you should enjoy it. I can't say further than that. It has taken a very long time to get onto the screen. There were some people involved in the production of the movie. It's produced by Jason Blum and directed by Lee Wan-oh. There's other people, a couple of people who wanted to be in the movie ended up being in the production crew instead. As I say, it took about 3 or 4 years, I think, to get for the cameras to start rolling. I suppose this is the big question that Universal are asking themselves at the moment. When they do a remake, do they set it in modern day, or one of these horror franchises, or do they keep it gothic? I suppose that's a big question. I would have thought with they try to do Frankenstein again, I'd keep it fairly gothic. But good luck to them. The genre is known, these Universal horror pictures, as the dark universe. And as I say, I wish them good luck with whatever approaches they do. And I say, I'm pleased that they made this movie, the modern movie, and I think what is very important in so many horror movies is that it's not just about blood and guts. That you have to care for the characters. I think sometimes that's been kicked in the dustbin. But as I say, in all three portrayals of the Wolfman, there's been a lot of pathos. And the interesting thing about his makeup, just to finish on, for the new Wolfman, is that he's the most humanoid Wolfman I've ever seen. He does transform. You can't recognize him, but he keeps a lot of human features. But he's still very scary. So I don't want to try and think that he's not scary. The makeup people did a very imaginative work on him. You'll see what I mean when you see the movie. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this, it'd be lovely for you to take the like button, take the subscription button if you'd like to explore my video channel. I deal with lots of things, and forward this to a friend, and that would be lovely as well. Anyway, as I say, The Wolfman is still showing in cinemas in the UK. I presume it's still showing in the States as well. Anywhere else, so do give it a whirl if you're a horror fan. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Take care. God bless.